Anime Recap: A beautiful girl like the angel lives next door to him, and spoils him rotten. Part 3. At school, Itsuki asks Amane to stay at his place for a few days after getting into an argument with his father about Chitose. Amane accepts, but notes that he'll have to inform Mahiru first. After school, Mahiru greets Itsuki and then prepares dinner for them, and later before they go to bed, Itsuki comments on how nice Amane is toward Mahiru, making him think that he's into her. He follows up with his opinion that everyone in school thinks Amane is some antisocial nerd, which Amane doesn't deny. Itsuki finishes the conversation by claiming that Mahiru, underneath it all, truly respects him. The next day, Chitose learns that Itsuki not only stayed over at Amane's apartment, but also ate Mahiru's food, so she decides to stay at Mahiru's for the night. Despite Amane's disapproval, Mahiru tells Amane that she approves of Chitose staying at her apartment. Amane then asks what they're having for lunch, and Mahiru answers omuris, because Chitose requested it. Later, they enjoy their lunch, and everyone compliments Mahiru's cooking. However, the conversation becomes a bit tense when Chitose notes that Mahiru can be uptight, claiming she always looks bored or rather aloof at school. She also notes that Mahiru can be rather distant with the other students, but after witnessing her cute and innocent side, Chitose was happy that her latter opinions were false. Then again, the conversation becomes tense when Chitose claims that Mahiru could tame Amane with her natural sweet side, which Mahiru denies she'll ever do. Chitose sends Itsuki a picture of Mahiru holding the teddy bear that night in her pajamas. When Amane looks at it, he immediately becomes flustered. In return, Itsuki takes a picture of Amane and sends it to Chitose. The following day, Itsuki and Chitose leave as Itsuki had decided to stay at Chitose's for the remainder of his 3-day visit. With their guests gone, Amane and Chitose talk about Mahiru's picture that Chitose sent to Amane. It starts off as innocent, but takes an embarrassing turn when Mahiru believes she was talking rather childishly about how she treats her teddy bear with such care. Mahiru then receives a text from someone, but refuses to tell who it is from. Eventually, Amane exits the elevator to his apartment complex and overhears a conversation between Mahiru and a woman, who chastises her for being like some male figure in her life. When they were done talking, Amane approached Mahiru and learned that the woman was her mother. Although Mahiru wanted to retreat into her apartment, Amane insisted that she stay with him in his apartment to console her. There, Mahiru confesses that her parents didn't marry out of love, but out of mutual interests. It was decided that they wouldn't have children, however, that changed after she was born. Despite being their daughter, throughout Mahiru's life, they only supported her financially, leading her to believe that they never intended to raise her. The person who truly raised Mahiru was her housekeeper, and despite accruing many accomplishments, her parents always refused to acknowledge her. This leads Mahiru to believe that she's an idiot, and they'll sever ties with each other after she graduates college. When Mahiru confesses that her mother told her that she's an unwanted child, Amane consoles her. After a while, Mahiru reflects on the disparity between how her student peers view her in contrast to her true self. Amane agrees and notes that while Amane isn't nice all of the time, he still hopes to protect her. Amane's words and more brings tears to Mahiru's eyes, and asks that he look at and hold her, which he gladly accepts. Afterward, Mahiru and Amane go for a walk and talk about the upcoming new term for their school. Mahiru was excited about as they'll be changing up their classes, but as Amane points out, she hopes she'll be paired up with Chitose. Soon, Mahiru hugs Amane from behind and thanks him again for everything, who downplays his achievements. They then have a heart-to-heart about Mahiru's thoughts on how spring and cherry blossoms remind her of the pain of being alone. The second-year classroom assignments are released and Amane was assigned to Class 2A along with Itsuki, Chitose, Mahiru, and Yuta. A brief interaction with Yuta causes Amane to recall a painful memory, but he brushes it off when asked if he's alright. At his apartment, Mahiru asks if Amane is okay, noting his dour look. Again, Amane brushes his mood off as nothing, but is surprised when Mahiru comments that his hair looked really nice to touch. Although uneasy about Mahiru's comment, he allows her to touch his hair, but is sheepish when she asks him to lay on her lap as she does it. As Mahiru strokes Amane's hair, she notes that she disapproves of Amane's reticence, and had hoped that he'd speak up, claiming Chitose told her that it relieves a man's fatigue. They then have a heart-to-heart about their second-year class arrangement, and how they should avoid interacting with each other during class. Soon, Amane becomes drowsy, and Mahiru suggests that he rest on her lap, which he does for an hour. Amane visits the arcade the following day and later returns home with a bag full of trophies he won there. He shows them his trophies, which are various stuffed animals. After they eat, and Mahiru takes a liking to the bunny. Hoping to repay Amane for the stuffed bunny, Mahiru allows him to request something from her, so he asks for some homemade pudding with lots of eggs. The following day, Mahiru shops for eggs and later makes the pudding that Amane requested, which he thought tasted delicious. He also notes that Mahiru can prepare practically anything, and she compliments her teacher for that skill. However, Amane states that saying her cooking is delicious was becoming redundant, despite Mahiru not minding. Still, Amane felt self-conscious about it. An upset Mahiru tried to clean up after him, but Amane insisted on doing it himself. This leaves Mahiru flustered, who retreats onto the couch, perplexing Amane. The next day at school, Yuta asks Itsuki and Amane if they'd like to enjoy lunch together, and they agree. Itsuki also claims that Yuta was being nice to Amane, and Yuta claims that he thought Amane was a nice person and would be nice to befriend him. Though Amane notes there's no merit to be had if they become friends, Yuta isn't interested in that. Amane then spots Mahiru, giving him a look of disapproval as she sits with Chitose. Later that day, at Amane's apartment, Mahiru sits on Amane's couch with a pouty look on her face, and he asks her if he did something wrong. Mahiru denies it and confesses she was being narrow-minded. Furthermore, she exclaims she should apologize because of her narrow-mindedness than for him to do it. Mahiru confesses that she's envious of Amane hanging around Itsuki, Yuta, and Chitose at school, but Amane states that it'd be weird if she did, as he's a boring nobody. Irritated by Amane's self-deprecative and pessimistic attitude, Mahiru claims that she hopes he'd gain more self-confidence in himself. The day after, Mahiru pairs with Chitose, Itsuki, and Amane for a group cooking assignment. And the next day, they prepared miso soup accompanied by green onions and scrambled eggs. When Mahiru goes to fetch some salad, Amane saves her from being splashed with hot soup. Amane would then scold the person who caused the incident, and made him apologize for his actions. Although Amane would later downplay this act, Mahiru would still say she's thankful to him. Amane mentions that Golden Week is coming soon. So Mahiru uses her do anything you want ticket, and asks that he spend a day during Golden Week with her. What Mahiru would like to do during that time is do some shopping while hanging out and such. Understanding Mahiru's request, he claims that using the ticket was unnecessary as he'd do it whenever. However, Mahiru insists on using it, and Amane formally accepts it, but asks what his task will be and where they'll do it. Mahiru claims that Amane will hold her bags, but hasn't decided where they'll do it. She does want to have fun doing it, and wants Amane to choose the location, and he chooses a cat cafe. What they'll do after, Mahiru decides they'll do some shopping and play at an arcade, to which Amane agrees. The next day, Chitose, dressed in a maid outfit, learns how to cook from Mahiru. As Mahiru does this, Amane sits on the couch and dozes off, only to later wake up next to Mahiru. Immediately, Amane suspects that Chitose had pranked him while he was asleep. However, Chitose denies it, and Mahiru sheepishly vouches for her. The food Chitose and Mahiru prepared was served to Amane, who tried and enjoyed it. After Chitose leaves, Mahiru apologizes and confesses that she pranked Amane by pressing his cheek and playing with his hair while he was asleep. Not taking any offense by what Mahiru did, he then rubs his hand against her cheek, and she seemingly enjoys it. Changing the subject of their big day tomorrow, Mahiru asks Amane if he prefers the prim and proper or mature look. However, Amane gives an ambivalent answer which upsets Mahiru a little, so he answers prim and proper. Therefore, Mahiru promises to wear something that'd knock his socks off or leave him speechless. The following day, a self-conscious Mahiru visited Amane at his apartment, and was concerned whether he thought she overdid it with what she wore, but that wasn't the case with him. Afterward, the two visit a cat cafe called Cafe Mafu Mafu. There a called Silk-chan sniffs Mahiru's finger, but doesn't show any affection toward her, which saddens her. Amane cheers her up, claiming that it takes time for cats to like people, and suggests they get a drink. Served a coffee with a cat-shaped foam, Mahiru was hesitant to drink it, but does under Amane's insistence. Because of this, Mahiru gets a milk mustache, which Amane finds amusing and takes a picture of it. Later the two sit together, and Silk-chan sits on Amane's lap, while a cat named Recap-kun sits on Mahiru's lap. This starts a conversation about how Silk is fond of Amane, who compares the cat to Mahiru, which she finds disapproving. Later they walk through the mall while holding hands. They briefly stop in front of a dress store where Amane notes one of the dresses on display would look good on her. Although Mahiru didn't believe she'd look good in it, Amane claimed she'd look good in any dress. Hence, Mahiru decides to try it on, and while she does, a couple of ladies approach Amane and ask if he'd like to hang with them, but before he can answer, Mahiru appears and pulls him away. They later visit an arcade where Amane helps Mahiru with a crane game, and she wins a cat doll that resembles Silk. Mahiru later gives the doll to Amane, but at that moment, Yuta appears and mistakes Amane and Mahiru for being boyfriend and girlfriend. However, their relationship is fully explained to Yuta, and Mahiru asks that Yuta not disclose this to anyone, which he promises. At the train station, Amane apologizes to Mahiru about Yuta finding out about them. Mahiru, though, doesn't hold it against him, as everything turned out well in the end. They then have a heart-to-heart about Yuta's relationship with Amane, who says some positive things about him. The day after, Amane, Yuta, and Itsuki hang out at a karaoke bar, where Yuta asks Amane how his day went with Mahiru the other day. Although Amane refuses to detail anything, Itsuki states that Amane and Mahiru's relationship is like someone with a wife in training, but Amane vehemently refutes that notion. However, Yuta sides more with Itsuki's opinion and suggests that he be open and honest with his feelings toward Mahiru. Later, Amane returns home, and Mahiru hides something when he arrives. Amane inquires about it, and sheepishly, Mahiru admits it was some pictures of Amane that his mother sent her. A scene occurs, leaving them both embarrassed by what had happened.